tell leadership what decisions they need to make. Yes, okay. All right, very good. And then how many people in here are making direct decisions related to course development? Okay. And how about instruction? Direct decisions related to instruction. Okay. All right, so we have a pretty good variation here. So we'll go through all of them. I was going to see if I can put it down or not. So we are webcasting, and for those of you that are on the webinar, oops. Okay, for those of you that are on the webinar that couldn't hear anything I was just saying because I wasn't in front of the microphone, Patrick Intervichet, who is our quality assurance manager at Florida Virtual School, is manning the chat box and is there to support you in any discussions. Again, my name is Crystal Geiler, and I'm the National Curriculum Manager for Florida Virtual School, for those of you that couldn't hear me on the Zoom meeting. Okay. So our agenda for today, we're going to be looking at decisions in leadership and some things that, might be a little bit benign, which is, how they're made and why they're made and how they relate to the mission, but I have a reason, so hang in there with me. We're going to talk about who and what do we ultimately serve. So who are our customers when we're creating courses or creating programs or developing those programs for online education, and then what is our product and how do we serve that product when it comes to quality assurance as well as quality matter standards associated. We're going to talk a little bit about decision mapping, so how you can map your mission, your vision, and your commitment for your institution or organization back down to a quality statement, which then maps to quality matter standards to best support decision making and data gathering. And then we're going to talk about the proof of concept and how, even though that's something that's kind of gotten lost a little bit as online education has been moving forward in full development, hasn't gotten lost in IT a lot of the time, but we'll talk a little bit about that and why it's so important. Okay, so decisions in leadership. I love this little cartoon. So what can we do about these leadership course? I don't know, what do you think? And isn't there anyone we could ask? So a lot of the time when we're making decisions or supporting decisions with leadership in an educational institution, we are bringing challenges to the table, right? And we're bringing those challenges to best support students. But sometimes it's really hard for that person to make an informed decision that is going to in turn support the students if we haven't really thought through how does this impact quality as we define it, how does it impact our mission, how does it impact our customer, the student, and how will it impact faculty and support resources. So thinking about decision making. So we have a lot of different components that go into decision making for leadership. We have, of course, the monetary, what's our budget and can we afford it? We have the time it's going to take and whether it's somehow limited on that time if there's some kind of deadline. And then of course we have the people. Who do we need to accomplish it? Can anyone else think of any other areas which might impact leadership decisions, things that my leaders in the room, what else do you need to think about when you're making a decision that impacts your customer base, your students, and your faculty?
Clear strategic vision.
Clear strategic vision.
And a similar thought, aligning with the values and mission of the institution.
Exactly. So does it align up with where you want to be in 3 months, 6 months, and serving your customers? Anyone else? I'm sorry? Federal and state guidelines, the law, accessibility. We'll use that one. Absolutely. Anyone else? Jim?
Buying commitment and plan implementation steps forward with you.
Absolutely, that's a lot of them. Jim has the chat back there, by the way. He just came up with all of those himself. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so the thing that I truly believe is it all comes down to our vision, our mission, and our values, right? How does it impact our strategic plan? Of course, all of those components are necessary in good decision making, but that's where we start. So whether you are making the decisions for your organization or whether you're making the decision to feed the decision to somebody who will ultimately be making that decision, if it does not align up to your strategic goals, if it does not align up to your vision and you can't show that, then you cannot guarantee quality in that decision. You're not going to guarantee you're going to get the result that you want. If a lot of the time we don't even know the result we want, we just know that we need to solve a problem. So, and I'll get to quality matters here in just a second, but first, asking yourself the questions when you have a problem that you're trying to solve. What is our goal? What are we trying to accomplish here? Trying to solve a problem, we're trying to bring us strides into the future when it comes to serving students. How does it impact your mission, your vision, and your values? How does it feed up to that? And who does this serve? Does this decision serve the right people? These are the three questions that if somebody has not asked themselves this and can answer them for me, I send them back to the drawing board when they bring me a challenge that they want to talk about. So what does this have to do with quality assurance? Everything. It has everything to do with quality assurance. The way we define our quality is completely within our strategic alignment to our strategic goals for our organization. It is absolutely living within our vision. The way we make decisions lives within our vision if we have a good vision statement. So let's take a look at the definition of quality. So I like to move around when I present, but I have to stay with this. So forgive me if you see me going like this over and over. So defining quality, of course, by Google is standard something measured against something else. But defining quality for an educational institution is not the same thing. Defining quality for an educational institution is not just about your product, it's about your customer. It's about who is actually going to benefit from this work. So let's take a look at Florida Virtual for a second. So Florida Virtual, our mission is to deliver a high-quality technology-based education that provides the skills and knowledge that students need for success. Our vision is to transform education worldwide, one student at a time, and our commitment is that the student is at the center of every decision that we make. Now that sounds like, okay, it sounds like any mission statement, right? You know, we sat down, we figured out where we want to be in a few years, we figured out who our customer base is, but all of this can drive what we consider quality. And what we consider quality and what you consider quality, of course, serving students in education is going to be similar, but it's not always the same exact thing. It's what it means to us. It's what it means to our organization, exactly how we function, the different instructional models that we have, and the different staff that we employ. So when we really take the Florida Virtual mission, vision, and commitment, and we take out the key words, quality, as defined by the FLVS mission, is to ensure that all decisions are made with the student at the center. So going back to our commitment, if I ever make a decision and I cannot tell you it's in the best interest of students, take everything else out of the equation. If I cannot answer that question, then I am not matching our organizational commitment. So how am I going to bring that to the board and tell them that I'd like to do this if I'm not matching that commitment? That they have to have some kind of impact on transforming education. So that's our strategy. Where do we want to be? Do we want to make a difference, or do we want to just solve this problem? Can we do both? And then last but not least, that they lead the student to success, that we provide them with what they need in order to be successful. So with our definition of quality, I want to take you through a little journey, okay? And that little journey was figuring out how we could implement quality assurance in multiple departments within our organization to best serve our mission, our vision, and our commitment. So what we figured out is the Quality Matters standards can help. They can. You know, you would think these are standards to develop a course, right? But it's more than that. These are standards to ensure quality to make sure that we're meeting the standards that are necessary as deemed by experts in the field, as deemed by all of the people who help with that standard committee, and making sure that our departments are ensuring this quality that we need. So going through, having clicking challenges. Okay. So going through our different departments. So we have our instructional department. We employ over 1,300 teachers in the state of Florida. And these teachers, which we employ, are delivering content that needs to meet these Quality Matters standards. Well, how do we know they are? And how do we know what they need in order to do that successfully? So what that comes down to is we created something called quality assurance instructors. And I'm sure that you have something similar in each of your institutions, somebody who goes through the courses, looks at the data, looks at the feedback, generates opportunities for professional development, for improvement. And I'll go through this a little bit more. So why do we have QAI? It's back to that quality statement. Once you have your quality statement, you can justify anything. You can justify exactly why you need it as long as it feeds up to that quality statement. So guaranteed review and assurance of Quality Matters standards. Those Quality Matters standards are front and center on rubrics when reviewing student-to-teacher interactions within our courses. Data to drive student achievement and policy decisions. So how do we want to spend that PD money? Do we want to spend it on feedback? Do we want to spend it on enhancing collaboration? Do we want to spend it on both? And do we need to? Because we need the data in order to tell us, and these people give us that data. And quantitative and qualitative data to inform performance reviews. As for course design, which takes up the majority of the Quality Matters standards for us, we actually have two different positions here. So one person is not responsible for everything, and there's always a second set of eyes. We have our quality assurance analysts who ensure that it is accessible and usable. These quality assurance analysts are not content people, although they are educated and probably could, make sure that the learning objectives align. They are not content people. They're there to make sure that the content is accessible and usable based on not only the Quality Matters standards here, but also web content accessibility guidelines as well as 508. And then we have our curriculum specialists, and these are, kind of like a mix between your SMEs and your instructional designers, where they are ensuring that learning objectives align and all the other associated standards. So why do we have them? Well, first of all, we have to guarantee that we're building the courses appropriately for students. We have to guarantee that we're meeting quality expectations, and we need to do that for our commitment to quality, not because a rubric says we have to, or because, we want to be the best out there. We want to do it because our commitment is to our students. So once we drive back up to that quality statement, we make sure that we have these positions in place for that reason, then we're able to feed into our mission, and therefore we're accomplishing what we set out to do in serving students. Okay, so last we have our IT people, right? Everyone has an IT department, no matter how big or how small. You have somebody who's responsible for that learning management system, someone who's responsible for the technology within the course and how we're using it. And of course, they're responsible for certain standards as well. So why do we have them? Again, guaranteed review and assurance of QM standards, but also the opportunity to gather real-time data on student use of technology barriers and solutions. So how does this all come together? Why am I telling you all about this and giving you Florida Virtual School as an example? And that is that no one can make good decisions when it comes to especially education without a few things in mind. Number one, quality assurance. Okay, so quality is not just live in one department. We all own quality assurance in some way, shape, or form. Your instructors own the quality. Your IT staff owns the quality. Your instructional designers own the quality. Your testers own the quality. Peer reviewers own the quality. So in the end, if you don't have one defined quality statement, how are all of those people guaranteeing quality? If we cannot define quality as an organization at the high level so everyone knows exactly what they're saying when they say that something is quality and it's owned by everyone, then we don't have quality. And the QM standards will help you drive that. They will help you get that buy-in. They will help you lead up to that strategic vision. So a little simple example. So say that you have $25,000 to spend. So what are you going to spend it on? You know you're going to need, it's in instruction. So that money's not going to making a new course. That money's not going to, you know, buying this new little widget in the LMS or anything like that. This money is absolutely going to instruction. So the first thing people think about is, oh, well, we'll get teacher PD, right? Okay, you could do that. Maybe we could lower the student loads. You know, maybe put a few less kids in each person's class with that money. Maybe we don't know what we need. And why don't we know what we need? Because we don't have data. We can, I think for a moment, just think for a quick moment. And if you do have someone who's next to you, feel free to pass and talk. Think about a problem that you know exists, that you know needs to be solved in your organization at this exact moment, okay? No matter how big or how small that problem is, think about it. And then I want you to think, what is our mission? And do I have the data to show this isn't really a problem? Okay? And if you do think you have the data, call me over because I want to talk to you. Okay? So just take just a couple minutes, talk about your biggest challenge, and talk about if you don't have the data, how you can get the data and what data do you need? And how does it match up with your mission and your strategic goals? Take just a couple minutes. And Pat, if you could support in the chat there. Gonna give you all about probably another minute to wrap up, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more. Okay, well, I'm glad you all had the opportunity to have some really great conversations. I heard some really good conversations about, kind of looking at some challenges and determining, wait, what is the data we need? How do we even define that data? And how can we possibly be able to make a decision and know what the outcome's going to be if we can't even define how we would set the stage to reach that outcome with a decision? So do we have any brave souls who, and you have to be really brave because the microphone is here for the people online. So do we have any brave souls that would be willing to kind of share their conversation? Please. You have to be really brave, outgoing extroverts in the room. Anyone? What about anyone online? Would somebody be willing to take the mic and if they're not, or can we hear them, Jim?
I don't know how to, I can come up there and tell you what they said.
Okay, how about somebody give me an example from the audience and we'll talk through it.
You ask me.
Okay, I'll ask you.
Or let me get this one. Pat shared this one too. Their problem is e-technology. They're looking to get more e-technologists to ensure online voter success. Checking with students the first 2 weeks of school, or if they're dropping off, be able to connect with them, need more hands on that to assist with that. So that was their issue that they were working on.
So let's talk through that one. So more e-tech individuals to come online, make sure they engage with the students. I think I heard within the first few days to ensure student success. How do we know that'll ensure student success? How do we define that? And I'm not challenging the question. I'm challenging the way we get there. And that's different for every single one of us. And that is what is so important here, is that every single one of us are going to have a little bit different, although student-focused, definition of quality for our organization. And when we have that definition of quality, then we're going to be able to answer those questions. We cannot ensure student success if we don't know how we're going to get there. And the way we get there is we need to know if we have this person, do we have data? Maybe we do. Do we have data on teachers checking in with students within the first few days versus not, and whether or not the completion rates were better, or on-time work assignments were better? We can gather data, but it's a matter of backtracking and not getting ahead of ourselves. Because if so, then what do we have? We have a bunch of people doing something, and then we might, in the end, be scratching our head and saying, well, why aren't the students successful? Go ahead.
We're a rather large team.
Mm-hmm.
We do have the data, we do have the hands on deck. For example, how do you properly measure student interaction with professor, student, peer feedback when what the LMS is giving back to you is being measured by the amount of clicks that is being done in content folders? It doesn't necessarily lead to student success because we don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only data we have to analyze. And there's, at least we haven't been able to figure out how to properly conceptualize how do we define, how do we identify faculty and student interaction in an online setting when it's measured off of it?
Right, so you have plenty of data, but you don't necessarily have the right data. Sure, yeah, absolutely. So what she was saying is that they have the resources and they have plenty of data from the learning management system. Correct me if I say anything off. But what the data is giving them is the number of clicks, which doesn't necessarily give you information on student and faculty engagement. And the engagement factor and the actual conversation which is taking place, and the work that's taking place, and the meaningful aspect is missing, right? Because what you're getting from the LMS is you're getting quantitative data. You're not getting qualitative data, and qualitative data is really hard. So one thing that you might do is embed, and these are just ideas, right? And I mean, anyone here could come up with plenty, and some might work for you or not, but maybe embed some qualitative surveys. Mm-hmm.
I think we just struggle with the survey feedback we receive from students. They either love or hate. There's no real concrete data that's meaningful to help the faculty member out, or help our designers give meaningful feedback back to the SME. So that's where we're at right now. We support quite a large number of courses online. So
Right.
we just want to make sure that we're giving them the information they need to be able to have student retention.
Yeah, and so what she was saying was, so the thing is that they have the survey data, they have the qualitative data, but they're not necessarily getting the results that they need from it. That it's, the student loves it or they hate it. There's maybe not a lot of detailed data in there. And I think we all strive for that. How can we get there? And if we're not asking the question, having the tough conversations, that we never will. So, yeah. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next piece here. So I left this one on here just to beat a dead horse. Data. We need data. It doesn't matter what your question is or how you think you're going to solve it. If you don't have the data, you can't do it. So how can we get that data, right? What can we do to get the data? And that's the big question. And we don't always have the perfect answer, but that brings me to investing. Invest in the data. If you have $25,000 to spend on instruction, maybe ask yourself, what data do I need to know what instruction need? How much is that going to cost? How can I get that data? And then once I have the data, then the next time I have a pot of money, I can actually serve my program. I can serve my mission. I can serve our quality. I can make sure that we're meeting Quality Matter standards to a T. So I put a few questions on here. Do you need more roles? This doesn't always mean more people, right? Sometimes that can just mean that somebody's going to wear another hat, peer reviewer or something. Do you need a review process in place? You know, what is your process? Are there people looking at it, or do you need documentation? So once we have those things in place, that's where the data comes from. I mean, you can put a quality analyst in a classroom or a peer reviewer in an online classroom, but if they don't have a rubric, how are you going to get the data, right? So sometimes you have to start from the beginning. Okay, so don't get caught up in the tennis match. So decision making with quality in mind. Quick decision can only be made with data. A long-term decision cannot. So let's talk about what a long-term decision might look like, okay? Prove it before you bruise it. I love this one. Okay, so POC, okay? We do pilots with students sometimes, right? I think we've all been there. We've done that. We've gathered data from it. Purposeful pilots are, of course, more successful in a lot of ways. But this is something that's really, in the IT world, really stuck over time. A proof of concept is something that, of course, you're going to do if you're going to implement a brand new, huge learning management system. You're not going to put that out to every faculty and every student, or I hope you aren't, without some kind of pilot stage, without some kind of beta to make sure that you kind of capture all the bugs or anything like that. But why can't online courses and instructional models be the same? You know, if we're going to make a decision that's going to change something to solve a problem, unless it's an immediate decision, which is going to critically impact students if we don't make it at that moment, maybe we don't have to make it. And think about that, whether you're the person making the decision or you're like me and you're the person helping the others to make the decision. And think about if I were the one on the hot seat and it was absolutely my responsibility in 2 years to make sure that we met our strategic goals for those years, what information would I want to make that decision, to make a good decision? And what do you need? You need data, 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 data. So a proof of concept will provide you with the data that you need. A proof of concept will allow you to take a step back, figure out what am I trying to achieve? What do I need to achieve it? And let's try 5 or 6 different things and see what we can actually gather to start answering those questions about, well, what if we do this? What if we do this? What if we do this? And look at the data, bring it back, and figure out what model actually helped you the most is the best advice I can give. Remember that quality matters is always going to inform that quality conversation. So Jeff asked a really good question when I was over there, and he said, how do you get them to buy in, right? How do you get IT to buy into quality matters? And my answer was, you don't have to. Because if you have a well-defined mission and a well-defined commitment, you have a well-defined definition of quality that extends over all departments, quality matter standards can just be a checkbox for them. Your instructional designers, your instructors, those are the people who you have to get to buy in, right? But IT doesn't have to buy in. They have to meet the quality statement of your organization, which means that they need to meet the quality matter standards. Give them a checklist. Don't even tell them it's a standard. That's my advice to you. So I want to thank you for coming. I left some time at the end just in case anyone had questions or wanted to have further conversations. I'm also here if you need any support, and if you haven't figured it out, I love data. So if you are having any, conversations in the future, you're starting a POC and you just want to talk through, here's where we're hoping to be, and we're not quite sure where to go here, I'm happy to support you. That's what I do every day. So thank you so much.